Welcome to Dream Vision 7 Radio Network's YouTube channel. I think their YouTube channel is just about the best thing ever because you get videos from most all of the different radio hosts and you get to see them in person, which is fun, and interact with them in a different format. So, I have got a regular show on Dream Vision 7 that airs 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. every single Wednesday. And it's called Flaunt, Build Your Dreams and Live Your Sparkle. So I would love it if you could join me for that show sometime. And if you're not free at 7 a.m. or 7 p.m. Eastern, you can go to the archive section and listen to the shows whenever you are free, which again is one of those deliciously yummy, fantastic features. So, welcome to Dream Vision 7 YouTube's show. Today, we are going to talk about a couple of different things. We are going to talk about overcoming disasters in conjunction with how to stay grounded in the present moment. I'm not sure if you have ever experienced this yourself, but I certainly have. When I have my spiritual practice or I'm really good at things and times are good, I'm like, yeah, this is great. I'm happy and I'm relaxed and I'm healthy and my family's healthy and work is going well and everything is going well. So I do great with my meditation. I do great with my yoga. I treat people with loving kindness and respect. And then when everything falls apart, it's so easy to start letting go of those spiritual practices and say, I can't, I'm too busy. I'm sick, I'm stressed, all of that stuff. But the point, really, of having spiritual practices is to implement them in times of disaster, in times of stress, because everybody can do it in the good times, but not everybody can do it in the bad times. Well, everybody can do it in the bad times. It's just that we don't dig deep enough sometimes to implement all that we have learned in the good times. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And as part of that, we're also going to talk about grounding into that present moment, whatever that present moment may be. Because once again, it's super easy to ground in the moment when it's a carnival ride and money is flowing and the weather is beautiful and everything is going in your favor. But it's much more challenging to ground in the present moment when everything is falling apart around your ears. So that's kind of the scope and the parameter of this show. How do we do life? Oh my gosh, how do we do life when it's difficult? Doing life when it's easy is kind of good. So how do we do life when it's difficult? And I'm going to give you wonderful examples and tips and tricks, and hopefully it will answer all of your questions. And then the next time life becomes difficult or you're faced with a challenge, you will hopefully have a lot of tools in your toolbox and you will be able to cope with everything in a really healthful way where not only do you feel better, but those around you feel better as well. And everything is positive and up and up. So let's start with a disaster. I don't know if you heard my show last week, my radio show last week, or read my blog, but they were on, both the show and the blog, were both on overcoming disaster because, oh my gosh, I had so many disasters this January, it was not even funny. And you know what's funny about that? What's funny about my disastrous January is I have a lot of friends and family who also had a completely disastrous January. So not only am I personally dealing with way more than I would ever want to deal with, people in my support system, people in my world are also dealing with way more than they should ever have to deal with too. So it's also taking away my support, taking away support I would have, but for the fact that we're all in this wonderful state of crisis together. So let's start there. Let's start with crisis. I wrote myself a little cheat sheet here because I wanted to make sure everything was done in the same order that I wrote it in my blog. In my blog and in my show, I talked about 4 different steps, 4 different practices that you could do when you are dealing with disasters. And I use the word disaster loosely because a disaster can be spilling your coffee in the car on the way to work, which really is not that disastrous. And it can be all the way to death, homelessness, destruction. There's a wide range of disasters, and I want to start from a place of not discounting anybody's disasters. If you break a nail and it's disastrous to you, yes, I understand that in the scheme of things, that's not that big of a deal, but I want to honor you in saying, yes, I understand that that could be a disaster for you. So let's just start right there so we're all on the same page. Okay, so a disaster happens. The very first thing that we can do that will help reframe our attitude towards the disaster is move into a state of gratitude. And sure, you can move into that state of gratitude surrounding everything in your life. That's fine. That's a great place to be. But more specifically, gratitude surrounding your disastrous situation. Mostly, disastrous situations are not bad everywhere. Mostly, disasters have some silver linings to them. By that I mean, and this was the example that I used in my blog, the day my grandmother passed away was horrible. I don't need to tell you why that was horrible. She was a really big part of my life, and that was a disastrous day. However, the weather was okay. The timing of her passing was such that I was able to teach the fitness class that I was supposed to teach that morning without doing one of those dramatic, panicked calls and scramble for a last minute sub, without having to cancel on all of the people in the class. Now, I realize that inconveniencing 20 people in a class is not that big of a deal. They would have gladly done it. But the point is, I was still in a state of gratitude. Hey, it's great weather. I can deal with driving to and from. We can call people. People can show up. Everybody was in town when she passed. I'm grateful for that. I was able to get that class taught without having these extra layers of, oh my gosh, I'm dealing with a death and I can't show up for work and what's this going to do? They were layers of stress that were taken off of me. And I was grateful for that. And they're small, and that's okay. It's moving into the gratitude of the situation. My oldest was in a minor car accident last Monday. I am grateful that it was a single car incident, that it was only his car, that he's not hurt. There were all of these things surrounding that situation that I am grateful for. During January, I also had a friend pass away. I told you it's been one heck of a month. I am not happy that my friend passed away, but let me tell you, she had breast cancer. She had a really amazing attitude up until the very last day, which is why her death was so shocking. Because up until the day before she passed, she was talking about getting out of the hospital. She was talking about getting well, what she was going to do. Oh my gosh, I am so thankful that she had such an amazing attitude. I am so thankful that her death was so fast that she didn't suffer for weeks or months or days or years. I am grateful that she had spiritual practices that served her well, and that she knows, as well as I know, that she is in a really good place right now. I'm grateful for all of those things. I'm not saying I'm grateful for her death or my grandma's death or for my son's car accident, but I'm grateful for all of the positive things surrounding those challenging circumstances. And I, in my head, am focusing on what is good and what I'm grateful for. So I don't get sucked in to the drama of everything's bad, everything's negative, and start attracting more of that. I'm staying in a place of gratitude. I'm attracting more gratitude. It doesn't mean that bad things aren't going to stop happening, but I'm attracting gratitude and I'm feeling calm in my heart. The second step in dealing with disasters is having perspective. And perspective is so important. First of all, we can always find somebody who has it worse than we have it. We can always find a disaster. And that's not necessarily what I'm focusing on because, oh my gosh, we don't want to start going down the rabbit hole of how bad things can be for people and then getting negative and focusing on that. What I'm talking about is having the perspective for yourself, for people around you. It's only money. It can be a disastrous business loss. Had one of those. Yeah, I'm having a huge disastrous financial loss this month as well. But it's only money. And even though it hurts, and even though it derails things, and even though it's traumatic, I'm trying to maintain perspective about what it really is and what it means to me. When I was a little girl, middle school especially is when it got really bad, I would think things were horrible. I don't know if all teenage girls are drama queens, and I wasn't necessarily the worst drama queen in the world, but if somebody said something bad about me, if I wasn't invited to a party, it killed me. And some of those things were worse, and some of them were less worse. But one thing my mom would always say to me is she would acknowledge my pain. Yes, Laura, it really hurts. That's really awful. That was horrible that somebody did that to you. But guess what? You're still going to grow up. I bet you're still going to get married. I bet, even though you're in 10th grade and you have not met the love of your life, I bet you will one of these days. And of course, I'd roll my eyes. She doesn't know anything. But it would still sink in. Yeah, I probably will grow up. You know what? I probably will get married. And she'd say, you'll probably have kids. Yeah, I want kids. I probably will if I can ever find someone. You'll probably have a job. You'll probably have some friends. You'll probably live somewhere that you like. You'll probably buy cute clothes. And she would kind of start systematically listing off all of these things that she knew that I liked, that I would probably have at some point. And like I said, even though I'd roll my eyes and think she doesn't understand, somewhere inside of me, I would see that perspective. Even if I had the most disastrous high school, the most disastrous middle school years of anybody in recorded history, I probably would go on, and there probably would be some kind of life in the future. And that's what this perspective is about. You may lose all your money. You may declare bankruptcy. There's something that happens on the other side of that. You might get divorced. People you love might die. You might lose your job. But there is life on the other side of that disaster. And if you can just mentally wrap your head around that, then it's going to help you move on. The next piece is looking at your life, realizing what you can control and what you cannot control. Controlling what you can and letting the rest go. Worry helps nobody. Worry helps no situation. Planning might help. Making phone calls might help. Keeping yourself in a place of peace or serenity or calm will definitely help. Realize what you can control, what you can't control, and let the rest go. Now, the last step that I talked about in my show and in my blog is looking for the deeper meaning. You might like doing this and you might not like doing that. It's totally up to you. But I love looking for the deeper meaning in things because it helps me get out of a state of emotional panic. It moves me into my head. Then I can start running that heart-head connection and I can start controlling that which I can control. I can start letting the rest go, and I can have perspective and gratitude and all of that stuff that's going to help me feel better and function more effectively. So here's what that looks like. You might know right away the deeper meaning of something. If something falls apart because you didn't take care of it, it might mean you need to take care of those things. Whether it's a relationship or a friendship or something in your house or with your job or with your finances, it might be an easy thing. Or it might be kind of symbolic, not quite so literal. Doesn't matter. Just look for the deeper meaning and think about what this situation might be teaching you. A brilliant exercise to do is to think or to even write out or type out or chat out with somebody else this little sentence. I'm glad that this happened because. I'm glad that my grandma passed away because. I'm glad that I'm having huge financial hardships because I had a major flood and the entire sewer line went out. Now, because. I'm glad my son got into a fender bender because. Those are some kind of deep questions. Now, here's what I learned about my sewer line, my massive, ridiculous sewer line going out. To me, it made me realize that there was a huge metaphor going on, that there was human waste flowing backwards through my pipes into my house, burying me in crap and poop. And to me, it was a real metaphor for all the other poop that was piling up in my life in other places, both small and large. My filing, I don't know about you, but I get the bills, the water bill, the sewer bill, haha. I get all receipts. I get this huge stack of filing and it piles up. I need to do that. I have pictures on my cell phone for years. I've uploaded them or downloaded them, whatever you do, but I haven't printed them. I haven't organized them. I haven't gone through and deleted the fuzzy ones and deleted the stupid ones when you take pictures of random things like your food. I haven't dealt with a lot of stuff that's built up poop in my life. And to me, my sewer backing up was kind of a metaphor for, hey, Lora, this is the universe saying to you, it's time to deal with your stuff. If you don't deal with it, I'm going to make you deal with it. And if you deal with it in your time, you have control. And don't we love control? And if you don't, I'm going to make you do it in my time. And my time might not be the best for you. So that's what I'm doing, and that's what I'm realizing from that situation. It's a little wake-up call from the universe telling me to deal with my stuff, to deal with that undercurrent of stuff that nobody likes to deal with, and to just carve out the time and do it, because otherwise it's going to backflow into my life, into my heart, into my energy field, and it's not going to be ideal. So that is that deeper meaning piece for me. And that kind of wraps up the 4 things that I talked about in my blog and in last week's radio show. You can find last week's radio show in the archives, and you can find my blog if you go to Pyramid Fusion. That's my website, www.pyramidfusion.com. There's a little link on the top that says blog and radio show. Read it. It's a great article to print and just to keep handy. But that also leads us into what I kind of wanted to deal with in this show. Spiritual practices and grounding. Like I said in the intro, we all have spiritual practices that we are oh so good at when life is good. And we are oh so proud about how good we are when life is good. And that's great. But it's called a practice because that's what we're doing when life is good. When life is good, we're practicing for when life is not so easy. And that's just the way it is. Being positive, using kind words, meditating, self-care, working out, eating right, reading, sleeping, being with people you love, talking about things. It doesn't matter what it is, whatever makes you feel deliciously yummy, whatever is a beautiful spiritual practice for you, praying, going to church, it doesn't matter, giving of your time, giving of your heart, cleaning out and donating, doing acts of service, it doesn't matter. Whatever is your spiritual practice, what you're doing in the good times is practicing. So when things are difficult, you will know what to do. You will have default behaviors already scheduled into your life that you can continue doing so you stay balanced and calm and happy. So if you work out, and working out to me is very much a spiritual practice, if you will work out as part of your spiritual practice and then you get injured and you can't work out, my challenge to you is to continue working out, continue that spiritual practice by figuring out what it is you can do. My husband, part of January, slipped a disc. When I said things have been bad, I mean it. When you have, and they don't know if it slipped or ruptured or whatever, but he's in intense pain and it's shooting down his leg and he can't move, and he's a runner and he can't run. And his spiritual practice is getting up in the morning and doing that run. Even though he can't run, the challenge is finding something that he can do to maintain that practice. Because guess what? He's sick and it hurts and he's mad, so he quits. And he starts sleeping in. And I'm not calling him down. This is just human nature. I do this too. We all do this. He can't get up and run, so he sleeps in. He sleeps in, and then he eats a bigger breakfast. And then he starts gaining more weight. And then he starts feeling worse. And then he's mad because he's not working out and he's gaining weight. And then he's sleeping more, so then he's staying up later. And it's this entire spiral that's pulling him down. When I get overscheduled, like I was last week, completely psychotically overscheduled, I let my meditation practice go because I don't have time. I like to lay in bed in the mornings. I'm a slow starter, and to think and to stretch and to pet my dog and to pet my cat. And I like to have that time to ground and to center and to meditate and reflect. And when I get so overscheduled and stressed, like I did last week because everything was falling apart and I was way overscheduled and all my sewer problems were not getting fixed, I let that go. And it didn't help me. I practiced in the good times. And then the bad time came when I was supposed to do it and I didn't do it. So just like my husband in his example, I began a downward spiral of feeling anxious, of having more caffeine, of being scattered, of working really, really hard and spinning my wheels because I wasn't focused. So I want to encourage you to challenge yourself to first identify what is a spiritual practice for you. Working out is a spiritual practice for me. It is for my husband. It might not be for you. That's fine. Meditation is a spiritual practice for me. I'm not really into praying per se, not in the way as formal prayers, as a rosary, as anything like that. My prayer is more with the mala beads and with my intention setting and through my meditation. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you do and what your practice is. Identify what your spiritual practice is. Making this little lemon drink that I make in the morning is also a part of my spiritual practice because it sets me on the right path throughout the day. Identify your spiritual practices. And no matter what happens that's disastrous, that throws you off, do what you can to honor those spiritual practices. Because they are the things that will get you through. Those are the things that will bring you that sense of calm, that sense of routine, that sense of understanding. Now, modifying is fine. Like I mentioned, my husband's fine. It's not like he has to go take 45 minutes and do something that he absolutely hates doing it just because it's his quote unquote workout time. He could stretch for 10 minutes. He could breathe for 10 minutes. It's just honoring that time and doing something. I would have been much better off last week in my chaotic week of meditating for a minute every morning, of scratching the dog, scratching the cat, of saying, too bad mommy can't hang out with you all morning, and jumping out of bed and moving ahead more quickly than I normally would. It's better to meditate for 1 minute than no minutes. So modify as you need to modify, but stay with those spiritual practices. Now, what I want to talk about in regards to spiritual practices too, the universe is funny. Oh my gosh, our angels are hysterical. Truly, they are hysterical. There's a lot of humor in the universe if we only open our eyes and our ears up to that humor. Have you ever noticed that just about the time you say, I can't take anymore, you get more? Oh yeah, all the time. The universe tests us. And I don't like the belief that it tests us as in we need to prove ourselves worthy, because I do not subscribe to that belief at all. We are all worthy exactly how we are. But I do believe the universe tests us in terms of our own level of commitment and our own level of understanding. If I say to you, I am a spiritual person and I have faith, it's okay for you to say, what kind of faith? Prove that to me. Show me your faith in action. Because that creates a healthy dialogue. If you tell me you are an expert at one thing It's not that I'm challenging you, but then it validates me asking you to share that wisdom with me. If you tell me you're the best cook in the world, show me. Not as in, show me, but as in, that is a gift. Show me your gift. Oh my gosh, teach me how to make apple pie. I love apple pie. If you tell me whatever it is about you in a conversation, in a healthy dialogue, the response is really? How? How much? This is cool. This is exciting. Let me in on that. Share with me. And that is what I mean when I say the universe tests us. Whenever we are increasing our faith, whenever we are increasing our level of trust, whenever we are growing spiritually, the universe is going to see that. And it's going to engage us in a dialogue by testing us in that positive, yay, show me way. So if my level of faith and commitment is going up, the universe is going to throw something in my way that will challenge my level of faith or my level of commitment in order for me to prove it. Again, not in an I'm worthless way, because I'm not worthless and you're not worthless, but in a positive way, in a, yay, let me show you this. I am telling you, I'm ready to take it to the next level. I've worked through my fear. I've worked through my inhibitions and I'm ready to launch. And the universe says, yes, congratulations. Let me put this in your path so you can show me how amazing you are. And then I can say, yes, I've got it. Thank you for the sewer spill and the car accident and the back accident and the friends passing away and the flood. And thank you for all of that. Because guess what? It gave me an opportunity to show you how rock solid I am. Or it gave me the opportunity to see where I need more growth. Either way, it's a win-win. So when people joke about, don't say that, and I get that. There were a few times this month I think, nope. But when people joke about that, start challenging that in your own mind. You can even challenge them. Hey, if you really are ready, how ready are you? And if you're ready, you can take it and you can show yourself that you can do it. And if you're not ready, if the answer is, good heavens, no, that's glorious too, because that then leads you right down your growth funnel and it lets you know where you need to be in order to grow. And I had that happen to me as well this month. There were a few things where I thought, I'm ready to do this. And then I was challenged on it and I thought, oh, I need more education. I just do. I need more certainty within. And I spent this last weekend psychotically researching some things on the computer and going down a bunch of different paths because I needed to educate myself and I needed to reaffirm for myself that what I thought was true, what I felt was true in here was actually true. And now I know. I know in my heart, I know in my head, I know in my energy field, and I am willing to share that with anybody because now I am rock solid. Now I do say, bring it on. I am ready to show you all that I've learned. And I'm ready to expose any other gaps in my knowledge because I am ready to move on. It's like a final exam. The universe always will give us the final exam. And if we don't pass it with flying colors, the universe is there to teach us what it is we need to know. We have unlimited chances at this final exam. Unlimited. But I'd rather not take the test repeatedly. I'd rather hit it a few times, one or two. One or two is really good. Learn what I need to learn and go on. And however you want to do it is fine with you too. But just realize you are not being punished. Oh my goodness, you are not being punished. You are worthy. You are always worthy. But you are being challenged to share your knowledge, and you are being challenged to keep growing those spiritual practices that we talked about. So that's that other deeper side of disasters happening, and why and how you too should be thankful for all of the challenges that life is throwing you. Okay, let's see what is going on with this. I keep getting fuzzies from my sweater that like float up and tickle me. So sorry that I keep tickling my face, but they're fuzzy. Anyway, the next thing that I wanted to talk about in terms of how to do all of this is the importance of grounding. Grounding is kind of a buzzword. You've probably heard the phrase, ground yourself. Are you grounded? Should you be grounded? And if you're like me, you might not have exactly known what that meant. I had a gal that I saw for energy work tell me I needed to ground myself, and I was like, am I grounded? She's like, no, that's not what I mean. So she talked to me about grounding. I did some research on grounding. I meditated on grounding. Now I will share with you everything that I know. This is the universe challenging me. This is my final exam on grounding. And hopefully it will help. And if not, keep working with it. Do some tests on your own. Okay. When we are faced with threat, whether it's a real threat or a perceived threat, it is an instinct to go into fight, flight, or freeze. It's not a shortcoming. It's not something that we can just choose not to go into. It is an instinct. When we are threatened, we will fight, we will flee, or we will freeze. And that is human nature. When we are in that state, we cannot think. Literally, the blood flow is being diverted. It's going to our limbs so we can run faster and jump higher and get away from that tiger. It is going to different places in our brain. It is not going to those higher level spiritual places. Our heart rate is going up. Adrenaline is surging through our body, and we are not functioning in a completely rational manner because we are fighting or running or frozen. And you can't process and grow when you're fighting, you're running away, or you're frozen. And that's just a fact, and that's just an instinct, and that's all good. No judgment on that. It just is what it is. Anyway, grounding is what gets us out of that instinctual fight, flight, or flee mode. Grounding is the action of recouping, regathering our energy and sending it back in to our body, into our core, into our solar plexus, which is our power center, into our root, into our hearts and our throats and our third eye and our head. So we can start making decisions that reflect the truth of our heart, the truth of our intellect, that reflect our power structure and our voice. So that is why we ground. We ground to pull everything back in, and we ground in order to give us the chance to make real rational decisions instead of being reactive, which is fight, flight, or freeze. We are being thoughtful. We are being proactive. And that's why we ground. Now, a couple of tips on how to ground, because you might be saying, I get it, that's wonderful, but how does that really work? Couple of things. We can use our breath. Breathing into our body, into our head, into our own energy field can ground us. Feel where your energy goes. When I'm in that state of panic, I don't know how it is for you, but when I'm in a panic state, it's like my energy is huge all around me. So for me, grounding is breathing and moving it back in. When I'm in that freeze stuck mode because I have way too much to do and I can't get any of it done, it feels heavy and icky and stuck in my chest. So for me, a grounding breath on that is loosening it. So I can feel those spirals of energy moving out and I can break out of that. So notice where you feel your energy when you're fighting, freezing, or running away, and breathe into the opposite of what that energy is doing. Another fantastic way to ground, and this is like yoga, this is like the root lock in yoga, if you ever think about that or have done yoga, is physically taking the tailbone and rooting it down to exactly where you are. And since I'm a fitness and dancer person, I love being physical. So I love that physical action of just rooting that tailbone down. It's not a pelvic tilt. It's not a clench like we're doing 1980s abs, but it's a rooting down of that tailbone. You can do that in your car. You can do that on the couch. You can do that at work. You can do that everywhere. Even when you're standing, feel like there's a weight hanging off that tailbone, grounding you down. And the point of grounding is to ground you in the present moment, whether or not you want to be in that present moment. See more fuzzies. Or whether or not that present moment is pleasant. Once again, just like with spiritual practices, it's easy to ground in the present moment when the present moment is so pleasant that you want to be there. Because then it's easy. But the challenge is grounding in the present moment when you don't want to be there, when it's too difficult to contain. And once again, that is exactly when you want to ground in that moment. If you are having this incredibly painful heart-to-heart talk with your spouse, your friend, your parents, whatever, and they're telling you things that hurt to hear, and you're expressing painful truths, chances are you don't want to be there. Chances are you want to move into your brain and jump subjects, which happens in arguments all the time. You're talking about this painful truth between you and your spouse, and then all of a sudden your spouse deflects and diverts to the fact that you never take the trash out. It's not really relevant. It could be sort of tangential, but what it is it's an escape out of the pain of that present moment, and it's diverting away into a subject that that person might be more comfortable emotionally being present with. So the challenge is to not fight, flight, or freeze, but to ground into that moment. And that grounding in that situation might be a hard look at yourself, a painful upset that, wow, that hurts. Let me just be with that hurt. Not even necessarily answering it or taking responsibility for it or anything like that, but just being with that hurt. Oh, that's a betrayal. I feel betrayed. That hurts. It might make me nauseous. It might make me dizzy. It might shake up my entire future. I need to ground into those emotions, even though they're negative and not pleasant, and be there and process. Because emotions last 90 seconds before they're gone. And if we're fully present with those emotions during that 90-second period, then they are much less likely to impact us in the future. We are much less likely to be messed up because of emotions that we have felt and processed than we are to be messed up by emotions that we didn't bother feeling. So if my husband tells me the most painful truth in the entire world and I'm feeling betrayed and hurt and angry, and I skirt the whole subject and I dance around it and I move to something else and I go into anger, you did this, and I didn't do this, and why didn't you, and what about this, blah, 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 blah. Here's those emotions of pain and betrayal and anger right here. And here I am on what am I going to do and what does this mean for me and for you and da, 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 and kids and jobs. And I'm on to a different subject. And I have avoided the pain right here of this knowledge, but only for the short run. Because now I'm over here and knock, 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 knock. These emotions are going to keep hitting me. They're going to keep poking me. My mind is going to keep returning. It's like when there's that accident and we can't not look. It's a train wreck and we can't not look. So we keep looking back at them and then they get bigger. We look away and then they get bigger and we look away until we go to them and ground ourselves in them and say, that was icky. And I felt awful. And maybe I did throw up. And maybe I did cry for a day. And maybe I did whatever. But I felt them. Oh my gosh, I grounded in them and I fully, fully felt them. And it's just like when the universe tests us, not because we're bad, but because we're strong. We've been tested. And hey, I can fully sit in those icky, horrible, horrendous emotions. And I can feel them. Because I have a spiritual practice and I breathed through them. And I rooted my tailbone into them. And I used my meditation or my working out or my journaling or whatever spiritual practices that I have, my bubble baths, to feel those emotions. And now they're smaller and they're manageable. And now I can take them and I can decide rationally what to do. I can decide in my heart what is the right thing to do. Instead of having a reaction, I have processed and I have been proactive in what I need to do. And that is why grounding is important. And that is a really often overlooked piece of dealing with disasters because we all want to feel good. And there's a lot of coaches out there, and there's a lot of metaphysical teachers and counselors and spiritual people that tell you to focus on the positive. And yes, oh my goodness, yes, be positive, but don't shy away from that which is uncomfortable because you're too good for that. And your practices are too strong for that. And your belief system is too good for that. So holy cow, take it on. It's just like the disaster. Bring it on. Bring it on because I am good enough. Bring it on because I can feel it. Bring it on because I have the processes that will help me deal with the emotions of that situation. And because I want to be a healthy person because I see myself after this disaster. I see myself after this crisis and I see life. I see a happy life, a positive life. So let me process it. I don't see myself having a messed up life because I've ignored things and haven't dealt with it. I see myself having this amazing life where I do feel good because I have dealt with my stuff. I have looked at everything I need to look at. I have really good practices that have been in place in the good times. So the bad times, I can move on through and create a much better circumstance and a much better situation in the end. Make sense? I hope that makes sense. If that doesn't make sense, or if you want to back and forth something with me, me, talk to me. I love talking. Email me. Email me your little data dump, your little brainstorm blah of how does this look for me? Lora, Lora, at pyramidfusion.com or lauracheadle.com. They go to the same place. You can reach out through Dream Visions. They can find me. You can text me or call me 303-994-4945, and we'll work through it together. Which leads me right into my last piece here. Some of the spiritual practices that I believe are the most useful, things that I wanted to share with you, to share what I do, and to just give you food for thought. There are 3 things that, in my experience, are the most important things to do. Again, do these in the good times. So when bad times hit, which they will, you know what you're doing. The first thing is what I call going within. You might like to journal. I have my pretty little pen. I have my sparkling little journal. I love to write things down. But sometimes my hand hurts and I like to type. And then I type. Sometimes I like to talk. I call one of my friends, I call my mom, I call my husband, I call my kids, and I just say, I just need to get all of this out. And it's almost too convoluted to write. And I just need to talk it out and hear how it sounds. Because when we talk, we are using 2 different senses. We are using our voice, which is throat chakra energy, which is fantastic, but we're also hearing it. And we're hearing how those words would sound if they came in from somebody else. And sometimes when we're in our own head and we're saying things and then we say it out loud, we're like, oh, no, that sounds bad. If my friend said that to me, I would think that was crazy and I would worry about her. Wow, interesting that inside in my own head, that sounded good. But hearing it from the outside, that's not okay. So get stuff out by writing about it, by reading what you wrote about, by talking to someone, by talking out loud to yourself. Ranting to yourself is really healthy. It really is. Not the kind of ranting that sucks you into a state of negativity, but the kind of ranting that gets stuff off your chest. Because our voice carries energy. Talking is physical. My diaphragm is being used. My lungs are being used. Talking is important. Talk with passion. Talk with purpose. Talk however feels good to you, but talk. Get that stuff out. You're going within and you're moving it out. Instead of keeping it all bottled up in here, you're dumping it on paper, you're dumping it on your laptop, you're dumping it to your friends, you're dumping it to yourself auditorily. Go within and scoop it out. The second thing that I think is super, super crazy important is to feed yourself. Feed yourself information. Challenge yourself to learn new things. That whole "you can't teach an old dog new tricks." Okay, the reason we have that phrase is not because we can't teach old dogs new tricks. We can teach anyone anything no matter how old they are. The reason we have that phrase is because we quit learning past a certain age. Think about how much kids learn. That first year of life is insane how much they learn. Elementary school, kids learn everything socially, emotionally, math facts, history facts, geography. I didn't learn my own geography. That's a side note. But kids learn all of this stuff. Holy cow, high school, college, you're taking 7 classes at a time, 5 classes at a time. Knowledge is being stuffed into you. Information is being stuffed into you. It's not that our brains quit learning. It's that we quit feeding ourselves. It's that we quit learning. And that's bad. I'm just going to call that right out as being bad because it is. And let me tell you why that's bad. It's fine to get comfortable and to do your own job and to do your own thing. That's fine. Give yourself a break. But holy cow, stay up with the times. If you haven't done whatever it is, Pandora or YouTube or whatever, or new technology, Pinterest, YouTube, Facebook, whatever, I'm not saying that you have to do it, but expand yourself, challenge yourself to learn something new and different because things are moving so quickly right now. And if you miss out over here, bam, the next thing you know, you're 13, 14, 15, 25 steps behind, and then it's harder to catch up. Challenge yourself. It's good for your brain. I started the show talking about the day my grandma passed away, which was a bad day. She was in her 80s and she had not kept up with technology. Many people are in her same boat. That's fine. Again, I'm not saying you have to be a Facebook addict, but there were certain things that would have improved her quality of life had she kept up with. Social media could have been a way for her to enjoy friends and family who were out of state. Could have been. She loved learning. Oh my goodness, she was passionate about learning. As it became more difficult for her to read books, she maybe could have learned things online. Keep up with things, learn things, just for the sake of learning. Open an Instagram account just to see what it's like. Get yourself a little frustrated figuring it out, and then move on. If you don't like it, great. I teach fitness classes, and I teach step in particular. Talk about an 80s workout. But I love it. And one thing that I love about step is the choreography, because I can create fun step choreography. And I always tell my people, if you're not a little frustrated by this choreography, I'm not doing my job. Because my job is to challenge your body as well as your brain. And I want you to get a little frustrated because it means you're learning. Excuse me. So, read a book that's a little over your head. Attend a lecture that causes you to really think. Jump in online on the computer on something. Oh gosh, program a DVD player. I don't care. Put together IKEA furniture. Do something that challenges your brain and makes you learn. This weekend, I read a quote that 80% of the thoughts circling around in our head right now, every day, are recycled thoughts. And that explains the fact that we tend to get stuck in our whatever level, our level of education, our cultural level, our religion level, our spirituality level, whatever level, socioeconomic, because we recycle the same thoughts over and over and over and over and over again. So feed yourself new information, new knowledge. I'm not saying you have to stick with it or agree with it, but continue to feed yourself new information so you don't have those same 80% of the thoughts recycling around in your brain. Try something new. You might like it. Actually, you probably will like it. And then my third tip for grounding and centering and having a spiritual practice and learning how to overcome anything that the universe throws at you, because the universe will, because you are rock solid, is having some sort of physical practice, whether it's breathing or stretching or doing yoga or dancing or running or cycling. Do it. Thank you for being here. I will catch you next week. May you have no disasters, and if you do, may you know exactly how to deal with them. Have a great week. Don't forget to flaunt.